Hi, good evening if you're in Europe, and I guess good afternoon if you're elsewhere, and possibly good morning. I hope everyone can hear me, if anybody's watching. Well, we've got 9 people watching, shit. Okay, now I start to get nervous and probably can't do anything, but I just thought I was going to sit down and start work on a new character. And yeah, I just thought I'd go live so people can see what I do. Haven't sculpted for a while, must admit. I was made redundant in June from my day job as a video editor. So my days recently are spent sending off, applications and trying to build a portfolio of extra stuff to show people, and it seems to be very time consuming and not really getting anywhere with it. So I haven't done much sculpting in the last few weeks, but I have some chocolatey looking monsterclay here, which is all nice and soft. And I'm just going to get started basically. I don't know how long I'm going to go for. I'm just going to lay down some basic shapes, basic forms, try and get the armature covered. It's not the best armature, I will admit, straight off the bat. As always, I ran out of wire, never cut enough wire. So you can see here, this is like I don't even know what that is, but I normally do a double twist all the way through and a bit extra in the middle. But this leg here is it came up as a double twist to about here, and then I had to wrap another bit to about here, and then it joins onto the rest. So it's a bit of a mess, but the good thing about monsterclay is once you get it laid down, it kind of supports the figure quite well. So may as well just get going. I've got some really nice monsterclay medium here, which is incredible for when it's melted. It's super soft and it's not sticky like Shiflett. So I find it's much better for building up a character pretty quickly. Just laying in some basic forms. I've got I don't know if it's a Hot Toys figure, but it's similar. This guy over here, who I just bought off eBay. You can buy replicas of I don't know what they're called actually, because I don't know which bodies the Hot Toys use, whether they're the same, but chances are they're probably made in the same factory and just branded under a different name. So yeah, I've got a couple of these guys lying around, and I find them very useful just to have just within eye shot. So while I'm working, it's the right scale. I'm going for 6th scale, so if ever I need, they're not amazingly anatomically correct, not like a proper anatomical figure would be, but I get the basic shapes that I need. So I normally start with the shoulders, the hip, or the hip bones. I just kind of make up my own words for anatomy as well, by the way. You're probably going to realise that at some point. I don't actually know the medical names for these bones and muscles and stuff. I know a few, only from watching other people. And I will try to talk about what I'm doing, but sometimes I forget I'm on camera. So if you hear me making any weird noises or talking to my dog or talking to myself, then you know why. As I said, I don't really know how long I'm going to go for tonight. This character is a character called Diamond, and it's actually a character that a business partner and he has created the character, and he's written a comic book series which we are hoping to launch in the very near future. And this figure that I'm sculpting now is going to be one of the top tier Kickstarter awards. So yeah, I have got some reference photos of the character, but they're on my laptop, which is over to the side. 1 second. See if I can drag my laptop over here for a second. So yeah, that's the character, Diamond. Incredibly well drawn by an artist called Domenico in Peru. I will link him in the comments after I've finished. He's an incredible artist, and he's going to be doing the comic book for us. So these early stages, you know, they make you feel shit about yourself. In fact, my work looks terrible until the very last minute, unless you think it looks terrible when I've finished, in which case, fuck you. I'm joking, obviously. But no, generally speaking, until I've got all the basic forms, all the detail laid down, even then, I mean, I know you're not supposed to put details on. That's the golden rule, isn't it? Do the basic forms, the big shapes, and working into the small shapes. But we're all human. And sometimes I get carried away and I can't help throwing a bit of detail in too early, which kind of makes things look a bit weird. So, generally speaking, my characters look terrible until they're finished or close to being finished. Now, I've given this guy a bit of extra height so that I can lay a base down. It's always nice to have a bit of a base for the character to stand on. So I'm going to try and get some clay down on the surface here. It's not going to look pretty, not to start with anyway. Ah! Yeah, when it's too wet or too warm, sorry, too soft, it's can be a bit sticky. But I absolutely love monsterclay. Ever since I started using it, I've been back to Shiflett since, and it's just, I just can't get on with it anymore. It ruins, it just messes up all my tools. Constantly having to clean my hands. And monsterclay, you don't have that issue. I'm not actually checking. I don't even know if anybody's watching. 12 watches. I don't know how to see comments. If anybody knows how to do that, it would be very useful. I don't even know. I don't even know how to see the video that I'm doing. Yeah, I'm not incredibly good with Facebook and live video. I am actually a video editor by trade, but obviously that's not the same thing necessarily. Probably should know, and I will get better at it, I'm sure. Check how high I can actually go with this base. Yeah, that's about right. Don't know what the base is going to be yet necessarily, but as long as we get the height there, then when I put the feet down, I've got a good idea of where his feet are going to be sitting. And I can always add some little stones and pieces of cork, bits of scrap plastic, things like that, to build the base and make it look more realistic. I mean, as this is going to be a Kickstarter award, I'm going to actually mould it, cast it, and I'm thinking there's only going to be one available for the Kickstarter, but if people like the figure, and obviously once they've read the comic, they might be more inclined to want to buy the figure. So I can always produce more of it after that. All of my moulding and casting knowledge, almost all of it, apart from trial and error, all of it comes from Raven Garfield. And you probably know who that is because he's an incredibly helpful sculptor, moulder and caster who spends a lot of time in the forum helping other people out. And he's given me a lot of tips, a lot of knowledge. The most useful being that, generally speaking, you don't get more than 25 casts out of a silicone mold. Generally speaking. So if you're going to mass produce a figure or produce a figure and you want more than 25, you're going to have to make a master figure, master copy first, and then make more molds off of that original, if you know what I mean. I didn't know that. I thought silicone molds, you could just keep using them forever. So if you don't know who Raven is, Raven Garfield, go and check him out. He's an absolute legend. He's very good at what he does. One of the best I've ever seen, actually, at moulding and casting. And if you ever need some personal advice, he'll be more than happy to help you out. He's going to hate me for saying that because everyone's going to run to him instantly. So yeah, you're probably watching me thinking, that's a weird way to do it. Doesn't make any sense. But it's just, I guess, habits I've got into, bad habits probably. Of the way I just block out the rough forms at least. Notice I'm not using any tools. Really don't see the point in using any tools at this stage. Get an approximate center line. Not that we really need it at this stage. Finally. Alright, I've just found the comments now. Hi Jared, sorry for ignoring you for so long. Hi Adrian and Fran, thank you very much for watching. It says there's 7 comments, but I can only see 4 for some reason. So apologies if I don't reply to you. I will answer all the comments once I've finished, if there's any more. The last time I went live I didn't have anybody watching, so I'm a little bit surprised that anybody's watching, to be really honest. But I did do it on YouTube last time. Maybe doing it through the fantastic group that this is a better idea. Then we turn it around and we see how shit it looks, because I neglected the back for a long time. He's laying a big old piece of clay. Nobody looks at the back anyway. Whenever I turn my figure around and I see that, sorry if you just heard that was my dog snoring. Whenever I turn my figure around and it's looking crappy on the other side, I always remember what the Shiflett brothers say, when they only they only ever finish one angle from one side and take the best photo they can of it. And it makes absolute sense. I mean, unless you're gonna produce the figure for sale and it's just for online or for a portfolio piece, what's the point in doing it from every angle? You may as well spend the time refining the bit that you're going to show, unless you want to show it from all angles, of course. Actually, I know what I'm saying. It's a good idea to finish your pieces. I just never do. Okay, so the pose the guy's in is kind of like a classic superhero action pose. He's going to be leaning forward slightly, his arms back, ready to attack or defend. Just check the camera's in the right place, that's better. And again, apologies for my workspace. It's a mess. And believe it or not, I tidied up before I started. So you get an idea of what it normally looks like. I will sculpt the head separately. I find it much easier than going straight ahead and just trying to fix a head and then getting in close to a full figure. I'd rather just sculpt the head individually and then remove whatever neck I've put on as a placeholder. And we can, I'll do that in another video. I'm not going to finish this by any means on one sitting. Especially because I like to start off with the clay really warm, and then once I've got all the basics in, I will let it cool down to the point where I can start refining it a bit easier. Because when it's like this, it's quite hard to do fine detail. Still, I can't work out why I can only see 4 of the apparent 8 comments on this video. Really don't know. But anyway, I will carry on. One of my favourite tools for monsterclay, which I haven't used yet because I don't really need it, is these bad boys. And that one's broken. Here we go. I bought two. Well, I didn't buy them. I have a friend who works for Clipper, luckily, and she gives me these jet flame lighters every couple of months when I see her, because I've gone through about 20 of them in the last year, I think, and they're amazing for monsterclay. You can literally just go straight onto the clay and it smooths everything down. If you're a ZBrush sculptor, holding the shift button and smoothing down the clay is exactly what these do, more or less. Don't know why I explained it like that. Most people in here are not digital sculptors, so it might be irrelevant. And if you want to cool the clay down, you can buy some of that compressed air that you use for cleaning out computers and keyboards and stuff like that. I don't actually have any right now, but I have used it and it's pretty good for that. Should have probably talked about the armature a little bit before I started laying clay on, other than how bad it is. But I basically just use some epoxy resin or plumber's putty or whatever else you want to call it, green stuff, although this one was brown, just to block in a little bit of the rib cage and a little bit of the hip area, and it just makes the armature a bit stronger and it gives you more of a solid base to sculpt some of the more rigid parts on. The knees, never ever get the knees in the right place, even with a direct reference like that. Yeah, I need to work on the overall setup for doing videos like this. At the moment I've got my phone plugged in and the cable's pretty tight around the back of the turntable here. So if the phone moves at all, it's because it's pulling on the cable. I do actually have a proper phone stand now, which is nice. Finally. Now the character is a superhero, but he's not ripped necessarily. And the artwork, he's actually got quite skinny legs. That might change, of course, depending on which way we go with the comic, but I'm going to work with what I've got for now. I can always add or take away bulk before I start the final detailing. I could actually do with the clay being a little bit firmer right now. Still a bit soft, but it's okay for now. Ass crack. Now his bum feels a little bit high. Let's just check it. It's a bit low. Interesting. Okay. Well, he's going to be squatting a little bit. So let's just hoik it up a little bit while it's still warm. Or hot. Hot ass. See, I'm not too concerned at this stage if things are out of proportion. I'm really just trying to get the whole armature covered and get a general idea of the pose and the shape. That's just the way I do it. I mean, I'm not saying it's the correct way. I actually started on a Frank Miller Batman head yesterday, which I'm actually quite pleased with the way it's going. Obviously it needs a lot more work, but I've always really liked the idea of Batman being a little bit more of a monster than a man. And Frank Miller was one of the best Batmans, in my opinion. I don't mean Frank Miller was Batman. I mean his conceptualization or his... Yeah, I'm just going to stop trying to come up with big words. I like the way he did Batman, basically. Okay, we're getting there. Slowly, slowly, slowly. Just constantly checking, make sure everything is kind of lined up. It's only a rough idea, of course, because not everybody's bodies are the same, but you know, generally it gives you a good idea of where things are going to go. We've got the belly button line, etc. It's much better to have maybe a printed piece of paper with some real anatomical guides on, but I don't actually have one. And the last time I've got my, I don't know if you can see up here, I've got all my reference material folded over and taped to the wall, because the last time I had it on while I was doing a video, I got the video banned because there was a penis on the wall. So yeah, Facebook didn't like that. I don't like penises over at Facebook. Bet Mark Zuckerberg loves a bit of penis, really. Motherfucker. I read somewhere the other day that they've made their own currency. Facebook. I mean, that is just taking the piss, isn't it? How much richer does one man need to be? getting there. Still can't see any more comments. It says there's been 10 now. Just refresh the page, see if I can see anything. Charity, you are mesmerised to watch someone sculpt, that's great. Giovanni, no, this is not a post-apocalyptic character. We have 2 separate IPs that we're developing. One of them is written by me and the other one is written by my business partner. I'm not sure if I should drop his name now or not. Not sure if he's watching or not. But he is an incredible writer, I'll just say that. And he's developed a superhero style comic book universe. And it's called Diamond. And this is going to be the lead character from that. My world that I've made is the post-apocalyptic stuff called Animi. And that will, we're in the process of finalising and paneling the script so we can get it sent off to the artist to be drawn. And that will follow. I think we're going to do Diamond first. In fact, I know we're going to do Diamond first. So yeah. 2 different IPs, 2 different worlds. Yeah, so that amazing writer I was talking about just commented. Feel free to jump in there, Kieran, if you want to explain things better than me. I'm probably not doing us any good. I find it quite difficult to think about what I'm saying in general, not just what I'm sculpting. Fran, sometimes I use concept, sometimes I'll sketch something out, sometimes I might create something really rough in ZBrush just to get a feel for it before, but most of the time I use sculpture as a design tool, so I'm literally building characters with clay on the fly. Sometimes I'll write maybe a short character description before, if they're fitting into one of my stories, one of the comics, or the novel that I'm writing based in the same world. If I've got a character that I need to see to be able to visualize for a story to write about, then I'll usually just try and sculpt something, to give me an idea of what they look and feel like. Or it would work the other way around, where I'd write the description, what they're like first, and then try and bring them to life in clay. But it's all fluid. Even if I've got a solid concept down on paper, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to come out the same way when I've sculpted it. Finally starting to look like a human, or a humanoid at least. Those knees are always too low, aren't they? Every time. Oh no, see this? Yeah, I don't know. Apparently, yeah, this one might be a bit low. Just extending the base a little bit so I can get his feet on. David, yes, it is clay. If you're asking which clay, I apologise for being a sarcastic motherfucker. And it is, in fact, monster clay. I have, Jesus Christ, it's heavy. I have got a spare. It's one of the most beautiful things in the world, no? A fresh, unopened pack of monster clay. Look at this. I'm going to let you experience it with me. Oh, look at that. Oh. So yeah, this is the medium grade. Hard as a bloody rock, which is awesome. And this is also the medium grade after being in the microwave for 5 minutes or 3 minutes. And it stays like this for a long time. When it's in its pot, it stays like that. I mean, look, around the edges, it's already starting to get harder. But in the center, it's still really soft. Like, I don't know, like soft stuff. Can't really describe it. I guess, I don't know. I don't want to say anything that might put people off buying it. But it's definitely better to work with than Super Sculpting or polymer clay. I mean, I know people are amazing with that stuff. I've seen some incredible work with it. And I tried it. I actually started off using it. I don't know, maybe I'll go back to it one day. Maybe I just need to practice with it more, but I find when I've been sculpting with monster clay for a long time and then I go to Sculpey, it feels like I'm stepping back somehow, or losing control somehow, and losing the skills that I've picked up. Because every time you sculpt, you get better, right? So I'm sculpting with monster clay. Every time I do it, I get better. I feel more comfortable. And then I switch material to a polymer clay, and I feel like I'm right back where I started. Chavant is the most similar thing I've found to monster clay. I say found it to be similar. I actually had it before monster clay and loved it, except for some of the qualities that I mentioned earlier. I don't want to shit on Chavant, really, because it's still a really good clay. I still use it mostly for moulding, blocking out moulds and things like that. But if I don't have any monster clay and I don't have any money, I do have a big supply of Chavant still from when I used to buy it. What I've started doing recently is trying to think about hard surfaces more than soft surfaces. And I'm not sure if that's a good thing to do or not, and I'm not sure if it's a natural evolution of my sculpting. But when I work with hard surfaces like the Sky Raider piece and the Space Marine that I was working on, I don't know, I find it more satisfying in a way and also more difficult. But when I'm sculpting an organic form, I used to get to a stage where it was just a big, round, smoothed figure with no definition or anything like that. So recently I've started, trying to create planes. People always talk about planes. And you try and create harder, flatter surfaces. Even if you're then going to go in and round them off at the end, I find it can sometimes help. Even skin has hard edges and angles caused by the shadow and the light. So if you're thinking about, the way I used to think about it was that skin was very soft and saggy and didn't have hard edges. And that's why you get kind of undefined, soft and wet and saggy looking figures with no bone structure. Because let's not forget, underneath all of this is a hard skeleton. I don't know if I'll be doing this whole thing live, because when I get onto the more detailed phase later on, I find it really hard to concentrate if I've got to think about being on camera as well. So I will post updates, but I'm not sure I'm going to do the whole thing live, unless people are desperately keen to see me do it. Can't imagine why they would be. It's more about the end process. It's more about the end result, I guess, than the process. And of course, I'm not a professional sculptor. Don't listen to me. Don't take my advice. I just do the way I do. I'm self-taught, just from watching people like the Shiflett. So you can blame them if I'm teaching you bad things. You can totally blame the Shiflett brothers. It's all their fault. If I hadn't found their forum, I would have given up on sculpture altogether, probably. I say it all the time, and people think I work for them because I say it a lot, but I'm not the only one who thinks this anyway. It is one of the best, if not the best, group on Facebook, full stop. Not just in the art scene. It's so supportive and so full of people that are non-judgmental. You don't get these angry types that just want to go online and argue with people for no reason about anything. You just don't see these people in the group. Now, whether that's because people in the group don't allow it, which is ultimately, I believe, the answer to that problem. The more that people rise up to it, the more that people retaliate, the more that people do it themselves, the more it's going to be accepted. And it's got to the stage now where it's just normal. You go into any comment section on any video on YouTube and it just ends in pointless arguing. Everyone thinks they've got the best opinion. Everybody thinks they've got the best ideas. Nobody gives a shit what anybody else is saying. And I guess to some extent, the internet has always been that way. But I think the more connected we get online, the less connected we are as a species. Jesus Christ, we're getting deep now. Just turn the camera on, Tom. Do a little bit of sculpting, Tom. Start talking about society and where we're going. Let's not get into that. We've only got 10 years left anyway, and then we'll be taken over by Elon Musk's super AI robots. Long silence. Don't really know what to follow that with. I have faith. I have faith in Elon Musk. He's a great man. I believe ultimately, although he's a billionaire and ultimately he's a businessman and wants to make money, I do believe he's one of the better ones who does have an interest in the rest of us and the planet as a whole. As I'm sure there's plenty of others as well. But he's actually making shit happen. I'm not sure about the whole space Mars thing. I guess it would help, but I mean, his work in Australia with the power crisis that they had was incredible. And some of the new rockets he's developed are incredible. I say he's developed. I wonder how much he actually does himself. Is he really sitting in a lab making rocket boosters? I don't know. I really don't know. I'm not a scientist. I do know that he's very intelligent and I enjoy listening to him, and I think he's got some good ideas. You got to be careful who you talk about these days as well, haven't you? I was talking to somebody the other day, I won't say who. I was talking to them about Jordan Peterson, who I think has had a bit of a rough ride in the media, and for whatever reason is now branded as alt-right or very conservative. And yeah, he's got some views that are quite conservative, I guess. But that's the thing these days. I mean, you have one right-wing view, like you're a gun advocate. You like, there's a lot of people in the States that want to be able to have guns, like they always have been able to. If you believe that and you talk about that, you're automatically right-wing. You're a Nazi or whatever. And it's not always the case, Politics are not black and white. I think Jordan Peterson has some incredibly insightful things to say about human society and about relationships. I mean, the guy's a clinical psychologist. He's not an idiot. He's not just talking to make money. He's actually trying to help people as well. Obviously he wants to make money. I don't know how I got onto this, guys. I'm sorry. This is what happens when I sculpt. So this is probably what I'm normally sitting here thinking as I'm working. Which is why I try to put music on or put a movie on in the background or something. Apologies. Shouldn't have gone there. Sorry, Shiflett brothers. I know it's not a political place. I'd be happy to edit that out. It's not important what I think about that. Anyway. Skinny thighs. Need to bulk you up a little bit more. Yeah, David. I like monsterclay hard myself. It would be my choice, but this clay I've got now is from the prize that I won through the Stan Winston competition. The prize was 5 tubs of monsterclay, plus the whole mask making armature line, which I still haven't used. Must be honest, I need to get using it. I really want to make some masks, some full scale masks, but yeah, they sent me medium grade, and I wasn't going to complain. By the way, I'm just going to plug Monster Makers here, the people that make monsterclay, because they are one of those companies that feels like they genuinely care about their customers. And I promise I'm not endorsed by them. They're not paying me to say this or anything like that. But that prize package that I won, you have no idea the stress it caused to get it into Spain, where I live in Barcelona. You have no idea. First of all, it got held in customs for 2 weeks without anybody telling me in the Spanish customs. They just sat there waiting for somebody to find out, I guess. I don't know what they were thinking. So then I contacted them and they were like, oh yeah, we need to know exactly what's in the boxes and what the value of everything in the boxes is. So I wrote back saying, well, it was a prize. I didn't pay anything for it. So does that change anything? Because I don't actually know the value of everything in the boxes. I don't have an invoice because it was a prize. So they took 4 days, maybe 5 days to reply to that. And told me that they needed... And this is the thing, they never bother answering the questions that you ask them. They just ask more questions. You're always speaking to a different person, so you have to explain the whole thing over. Anyway, basically, Arnold Goldman, the founder, I guess, founder or owner of Monster Makers, he did everything he possibly could to help me get it out of customs and get it forwarded on. It was FedEx, the courier. And they were good in the end. I got a call from an American woman, actually, based in Barcelona here. And she was really helpful. Because the funny thing was, after all of that, I was away in Brazil on holiday. This was the first problem. I was visiting my wife's family in Brazil. So I needed to find somebody that was available between 9 and 4:30 p.m. to receive the packages, which I sent to my old office in the end, my old work, and one of my colleagues there took the boxes for me, paid the custom fees, which were around €75 in total for not much. Don't know what they did, just looked at it and charged me €75. Yeah, and the funny thing is, I went to pick up the boxes from my workplace, and there was only one. So after all that, FedEx had failed to deliver both the boxes. So I then emailed again. Nobody knew what was going on. I had 3 different invoices from FedEx that all had different amounts and different package numbers on it. It was just a mess. I don't know what was happening. But it definitely wasn't Monster Maker's fault. They did everything they should have done. And I guess all that matters is, in the end, we got it. And it was a great prize package. I'm extremely thankful. Still can't believe I actually won the competition in the first place. But they sent me a whole load of goodies, some texture stamps here, which I still haven't used. Some brushes, a clay, I guess that's a rake or a scraper, I don't know what you call that. Some wooden tools, and they sent me a pack of these metal tools, which are incredible. I love tools like this. I love aluminium tools or steel tools. And then they sent me the full line of mask armatures, which I should be using, really. I should have done something for Halloween, but it's been a bit of a funny month here. I've had a few people we know pass away through various reasons, which I won't get into. But it's been a bit of a weird time, hence the fact I haven't done much sculpting. But today, feeling inspired. Funny thing about sculpture for me, it's going to ramble on a little bit more now, guys, sorry. Funny thing about sculpture for me is it's like a therapy for me. When I'm feeling stressed or down or whatever, it's one of the best ways for me to be able to switch off and process things. Like I said earlier, I just sit here thinking things through. Not necessarily come to any massive realizations, but that's what therapy is. Now you're just getting things off your chest, talking things through with somebody. And sculpture gives me the ability to be able to do that with myself, in a way. So I found it very strange that recently, the more stressed I got, the less I actually wanted to sit down and work. I sometimes get this anxious feeling that time is moving too quickly. I guess I would have to explain it like that. And sculpture is not a fast process. Not for me, at least. We can't all be Jordu Shell and knock out a maquette in 2 hours. So I sometimes get this anxiety that I'm spending too much time on my sculpture work when there might be more important things to do. All right. Oh, shit. Sorry. Okay, so starting to look a little bit more human now. I'm just gonna get some clay on the arms. Kieran, what inspired me to sculpt? You did, mate. I'll be honest, me and my wife owned a shop in Barcelona about 4 years ago now, I think. 4 or 5, no, can't be 5 years, 4 years ago. And it wasn't doing well, not afraid to admit. I was sitting there one day and there was no customers walking through the door. And I started thinking about which kind of, because I always had something artistic on the go, be it writing music, making short films, animations, whatever. I've done a lot of different artistic things over the years, and I was trying to think of something new to do. And I had a friend here who was big into special effects and making prosthetics and things like that. And he suggested that, sorry, I'm just trying to straighten the camera up here. He suggested that I go to one of the shops in Barcelona called Formex, which is like a semi-warehouse type store that's just full of smooth-on products. It's full of clay and all that good stuff. And my initial idea was to make stop motion puppets, because I used to do a lot of stop motion work just for myself, not professionally. So I bought some wire, armature wire, and some latex, some liquid latex, and I started making stop motion puppets. And then I guess I just felt restricted by the fact that they had to be movable and articulatable. And I wanted to start making actually some cooler looking just statues, I guess, or figures. And I've always, since a young age, I've always been into action figures. Never had the money to buy the good ones like the Hot Toys. One day, when I'm rich, one day I will buy all of the Hot Toys that I've ever wanted, I'm sure. I especially want some of the Star Wars ones. I'd love an old school Luke Skywalker, something like that. So yeah, I've always been into figures. Originally, what got me into model making was Games Workshop. I never used to really play the games. I was just fascinated by the miniatures as a child, and I used to buy them, paint them, modify them, until somebody at the shop told me that I wasn't allowed to modify them if I wanted to use them in the game, which put me off a little bit. But anyway, so yeah, that's how I started. I started making, customizing my figures using the green stuff, epoxy putty. And then I had a big break from it when I moved over here. Too many other things going on. And as I said, I was just sitting in my shop wondering what I could do. And I stumbled across the Stan Winston School of Character Arts. And they had a free trial. So I took the free trial. And I started working my way through some of the tutorials on there. Jordu Shell, Casey Love, Spider Zero, Simon Lee. Some absolutely insane talent and teachers. And I was just amazed at what people could do with a lump of clay. And I just started, I started out with super sculpting, and I was just trying to make, I think the first thing I made was Yoda, and it wasn't amazing, obviously. But I just found it extremely therapeutic, even in the early stages when I was still learning, even how to build an armature. I just found it fun. And what's the point in doing something if it's not fun, right? I hope that answers your question, Kieran. But ultimately, mate, it was you. Everything was you. It's all your fault. How long have I been going for? Wow! An hour. Damn. An hour has flown by. And I didn't even realise it. I thought it had been about 20 minutes. That makes me feel shit. I normally get more than this done in an hour. Fuck you. Fuck you, live Facebook crap. I'll go back to being alone with my thoughts. I can talk about Jordan Peterson all I like then. I won't get unfriended by all the haters. I'm not going back there, don't worry. So, nearing the point where I need to just leave it for a while, let it all cool down, and then I'm going to go in and really hack away at it and make some seriously hard lines to get the proportions and the measurements and everything in place before I then put the final kind of touches to it. And obviously I need to do the face, the head, which takes a long time for me. Hands are not something I enjoy sculpting. But of course, they're going to be essential. I'm guessing Diamond is going to have clenched fists, which make my life a lot easier. And what I always keep handy, in fact, now I've said that, I'm not going to have one, am I? Yes. One of these, like a Action Man or a Hot Toys hand. Perfect scale, just right. So when I get to that stage, it really helps just to have a one-to-one comparison, so I can start, making the fingers look really crap. and sausages. Man, you watch Jordi Shell sculpt a hand in a minute, and it just makes you want to burn your tools in a metal bin under a highway, getting high on crack, really. That's how it makes me feel. No, I'm joking. Jordi is incredibly inspiring for me. One of my favourite sculptors. Not only because he's entertaining to watch, he's actually incredibly talented, as is Spider Zero, as are the wonderful brothers that you all know so well. It's hard to put my finger on the most inspiring. My friends often say to me, who's the most inspiring sculptor that you know or that you watch their work? It's really hard to say, because over the years of doing it and being on social media, you gather a huge pool of sculptors that are constantly laying out work, good work. So from day to day, it could change who inspires me. But who got me started? Definitely Jordi Shell, Simon Lee. And then once I found this group, Shiflett Brothers, it really gave me the confidence to improve, gave me the confidence to post my work, show people, and ask for help. If you don't ask, you don't get. That's what my mother always taught me. And guys, if you're sitting there sculpting and not posting your work, you've got to get over it. It's one of the best ways to improve, is to let people tell you what's wrong with it and listen to them. It's difficult, not going to lie. Especially when you get some twat that doesn't even sculpt saying, oh, I went to art school, your elbows are too high. Fuck off. But yeah, you're right, so don't fuck off and thank you, you know? It's not easy to hear even constructive criticism sometimes, but got to take it. It's the only way, one of the only ways you're going to get better. You can't sculpt, you can't improve in a vacuum by yourself. Or maybe you can, and I'm talking shit once again. Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it there for tonight. Thanks very much for people that have watched. I will put a tool in it for now and come back to it another day. Wow, I've just had a really good idea for a character. Yeah, I will come back to it another day. I will do a little bit more live stuff, considering I got some people watching at least. I might well sculpt the head off camera, or at least not live, but I will film it and I'll post it up when that's done. So thanks for watching, guys. Have a very good evening. Enjoy your Sunday. And I'll see you soon.